She stood there, cold steel gleaming in her hand, the blade inches from his throat. "Any last words?" she hissed, confident he was seconds from death. He smiled, calm as ever, and replied, "Yeah, you're holding it wrong." What happened next would change everything they thought they knew about strength, skill, and survival. The dim light of the abandoned warehouse cast long shadows across the cracked concrete floor. Dust particles floated lazily in the stale air, disturbed only by their quiet, tense breaths. A figure crouched near the wall, blood dripping slowly from a shallow cut on his cheek. Opposite him stood Mira, eyes blazing, knife poised at his throat, her every muscle taut with fury and determination. "Any last words?" Myra's voice was ice, sharp and unyielding. He looked up, met her gaze without flinching. A slow smile curled on his lips, one that didn't quite reach his eyes, but was unnervingly calm. "Yeah," he said softly, "you're holding it wrong." For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Myra's fingers tensed on the hilt, tightening the grip. The blade glinted cruelly in the flickering light, but the man didn't flinch or back down. "You want to show me?" she challenged, sneering. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, with a quick, practiced motion, he grabbed her wrist, his hand steady despite the pain and exhaustion burning in his limbs. Before she could react, he twisted the blade away from his throat and jerked her arm sideways, sending the knife clattering to the floor. Mira blinked, surprised by the sudden loss of control. He took a slow, steadying breath and stepped back, hands raised in peace. "Listen," he said, voice low but urgent, "you're not just fighting me. You're fighting what I represent. And if you want to win, you need to rethink everything, starting with how you hold your blade." Myra's eyes narrowed. "You think you can teach me?" "I don't think," he replied with a faint smile. "I know." The man's name was Eli, a former soldier turned fugitive, known in the underground world as a ghost, elusive, cunning, and deadly. Mira had hunted him for months, driven by revenge and a desperate need to prove herself. But standing here now, looking at the man she'd chased across cities and borders, something inside her shifted. He wasn't the brute she'd imagined. There was something more, a strange calmness beneath the surface, a silent strength that didn't come from brute force. "Why are you here?" Mira demanded, regaining some control as she stepped forward, reaching for her fallen knife. Eli held up a hand, blocking her motion gently. "Because I have a message. And because the people who want me dead want you dead too." Her brow furrowed. "Why me?" He shook his head slowly. "Because you're better than them think. Because you fight with your heart, even if you don't realize it yet. Because they want to use you, just like they want to use me." Mira felt a flicker of doubt, but pushed it away. "I'm not interested in your riddles. If you're so smart, why are you running?" "Because running is sometimes the only way to live," Eli said quietly. Over the next hour, as they sat in the shadows, Eli showed Mira the flaws in her fighting style, the weaknesses in her blade technique. His voice was patient, almost gentle, but his lessons cut deep. "You hold your knife like this, and you expose your wrist," he said, demonstrating with swift precision. "That's how they'll disarm you every time." Mira tried to mimic his grip, but found her hands trembling. "It's not easy." "No," Eli admitted, "but nothing worth doing ever is." She looked at him, really looked, saw the scars that told stories of battles past, of pain endured, and strength forged in fire. "You've been running from more than just people, haven't you?" He didn't answer at first. Then, with a quiet sigh, he said, "Yeah, from myself." Days turned into weeks as they trained together in the ruins of the city, forging an unlikely alliance. Myra's skills grew sharper, her confidence steadier, but more importantly, the walls around her heart began to crumble. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to reclaim something lost: trust, hope, maybe even redemption. One night, as they sparred under the pale moonlight, Mira landed a clean strike on Eli's shoulder. He stumbled back, laughing softly. "Not bad," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "You're holding back," she teased, lowering her blade. He shook his head. "You've come a long way. But remember, strength isn't just about the blade. It's about knowing when to fight, when to hold, and when to let go." Mira nodded slowly. "I think I'm starting to understand." The final test came sooner than they expected. Their enemies found them in the dead of night, a ruthless gang led by a man named Cade, who wanted Eli dead and Mira captured. The battle was fierce, chaotic. Blades clashed, bullets flew, and screams echoed through the empty streets. Mira moved with newfound grace and precision, her knife an extension of herself. Eli fought beside her, calm and lethal. At a critical moment, Cade lunged toward Mira, blade aimed to kill. Time slowed as she remembered Eli's lesson. With a swift pivot and a practiced twist of her wrist, she disarmed Cade, sending his knife skittering across the pavement. "Any last words?" she whispered. The tables turned. Cade glared but was powerless. Mira smiled, the memory of Eli's words echoing in her mind. "Yeah, you're holding it wrong." In the aftermath, as dawn broke over the city, Mira and Eli stood together, battered but unbroken. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" he asked. "For teaching me how to really hold my blade and my life." He smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. Sometimes, the greatest strength is knowing when to change your grip. They walked away from the ruins, not just as hunter and hunted, but as partners bound by respect, resilience, and the promise of a new beginning.